Name is James. What happened to me in 2022 still makes me avoid underground parking lots. At that time, I worked as a night watchman in a large apartment complex. It was a modern building with 3 basement parking levels. My duty was simple. From 10 p.m. until 6 a.m., I had to patrol the parking areas, check security cameras, and make sure no one entered unauthorized sections. The residents rarely came down late at night. Most nights were silent. Too silent. The deepest parking level was basement level 3. Even during daytime, people avoided it because only a few parking spaces were occupied there. The place always felt strange. The fluorescent lights buzzed constantly. The concrete pillars seemed to stretch endlessly into darkness. Every footstep echoed for several seconds. The air felt colder than the rest of the building. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. Then things started happening. One night around 1:40 a.m., I was sitting in the security room when I noticed movement on camera 17. It covered a section of basement 3. A figure was standing between 2 parked cars. I assumed it was a resident. But something felt wrong. The person wasn't moving. Not even slightly. I stared at the monitor. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. A full minute. The figure remained perfectly still. Then the camera suddenly flickered. Just once. When the image returned, the person was gone. I checked the recording. The same thing happened on playback. The figure simply disappeared during the split second of static. I felt uneasy but convinced myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe someone walked away during the camera glitch. Maybe. The following night was worse. At approximately 2:15 a.m., I was conducting my routine patrol. I reached basement 3 carrying a flashlight. Everything seemed normal. Rows of cars. Concrete pillars. Silence. Then I heard footsteps. Slow footsteps. Somewhere behind me. I turned around immediately. Nobody. The footsteps stopped. I continued walking. A few moments later. Again, this time closer. My stomach tightened. I swung my flashlight around. Nothing. Only empty parking spaces. I told myself it was an echo. It had to be. Yet every time I started walking, the footsteps followed. And every time I stopped, they stopped too. Exactly, as if something was matching my movements. I hurried back to the elevator. The footsteps followed me all the way there. That night I barely slept. But the worst experience happened 2 weeks later. A night I will never forget. Heavy rain was falling outside. The building was unusually quiet. Around 3 a.m., one of the residents called security. He said he heard a woman crying in basement 3. I assumed someone needed help. Without hesitation, I grabbed my flashlight and headed downstairs. The elevator opened. The cold air hit me immediately. The crying was real. I followed the sound through the parking area. The crying echoed strangely. Every time I thought I was getting closer, it seemed to move farther away. 5 minutes passed. Then suddenly, the crying stopped. Complete silence. I was standing near the farthest corner of the basement, a section rarely used by anyone. I remember shining my flashlight ahead. That's when I noticed something. At the end of the parking lane was a woman, standing beside a pillar. Her long black hair covered her face. She wasn't moving. My first thought was relief. I believed I had found the person who was crying. "Ma'am," I called. No response. I took a few cautious steps forward. "Are you okay?" Still nothing. Then something happened that froze every muscle in my body. The woman slowly raised her arm and pointed behind me. Not at me. Behind me. A cold wave rushed through my entire body. I don't know why, but every instinct told me not to turn around. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. Yet curiosity won. Slowly, I looked over my shoulder. There was nobody there. The lane behind me was completely empty. When I turned back, the woman was gone. Gone. There was nowhere she could have run. No doors. No stairwell. Nothing. Just an empty concrete wall. I felt genuine terror for the first time in my life. I rushed back toward the elevator. As I walked, I noticed something strange. The sound of my footsteps had changed. Instead of one set of footsteps, there were 2. Mine, and another pair walking beside me. perfectly synchronized. I stopped. The second footsteps stopped. I started walking again. They started too. I broke into a run. The other footsteps ran with me. Louder, closer, right beside me. I reached the elevator and repeatedly pressed the button. The doors finally opened. I jumped inside. As the doors began closing, I looked back into the basement. For a brief moment, illuminated by the fluorescent lights, I saw a dark figure standing between two pillars, watching me, completely motionless. The doors shut. I never went back to basement number 3 alone again. A month later, I resigned from the job. What disturbed me most wasn't the figure. It wasn't the crying. It wasn't even the footsteps. A few days before I left, I checked the archived security footage from the night of the incident. The camera showed me walking alone through the basement. But when I reached the far corner, I suddenly stopped, stood completely still, and remained there for nearly 7 minutes, just staring into empty darkness. There was no woman visible anywhere on the footage. No crying. No second figure. Nothing. To this day, I still don't know who or what I saw that night. But sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, I remember those footsteps. The ones that weren't mine. And I wonder if something actually followed me out of that basement.